Ladies and gentlemen, in place of the program originally scheduled for this period, we present now one of the most unique broadcasts we have ever presented. An actual eyewitness description of the disaster at Lakehurst, New Jersey last night. The destruction of the giant airship Hindenburg. In keeping with the policy of the National Broadcasting Company and affiliated stations to report noteworthy events, Station WLS, the Prairie Farmer Station, Chicago, sent announcer Herbert Morrison and engineer Charles Nielsen to Lakehurst yesterday to record an eyewitness description of the landing of the Hindenburg. The occasion was the first anniversary of the inauguration of transatlantic air service and the first crossing of the 1937 season. Morrison and Nielsen were at Lakehurst with their recording apparatus when the giant airship floated in, and they were hard at work describing the scene and making a reference recording of it when the disaster occurred. Both of these men are in the studio with us now, with a copy of the reference record, which describes in detail their observations and thoughts as they witnessed and recorded this catastrophe. In order that you may understand the picture a little more thoroughly before we play the record, I'm going to ask Herb Morrison, whose voice will be heard on this record, to tell us something of the scene that first greeted them on their arrival at Lakehurst. Herb, will you tell us, was there anything unusual about the scene? By that I mean, did you have any presentiment of danger?
No, Bob, except it had been raining 30 minutes before the arrival of the Hindenburg, and the only difficulty that anyone thought was maybe a little extra work would be needed to land the ship in the rain.
I see. Well, tell me, did the rain stop before the Hindenburg came in for the landing?
No, Bob, it wasn't raining hard, just a slight drizzle. We had a recording apparatus set up outside the heavier-than-air hangar, and I turned to Charlie Nielsen and said, "Charlie, I'm going outdoors for a description of the landing." And at this point, my voice on the record will tell you what happened. The ship was riding majestically toward us like some great feather, riding as though it was mighty proud of the place it's playing in the world's aviation. The ship is no doubt bustling with activities we can see. Orders are shouted to the crew. The passengers probably lining the windows looking down at the field ahead of them, getting their glimpse of the mooring mast. And these giant flagships standing here, the American airline flagships, waiting to rise into all points in the United States when they get the ship moored. There are a number of important personages on board, and no doubt the new commander, Captain Max Fish, is thrilled, too, for this is his great moment, the first time he's commanded the Hindenburg. For in previous flights, he acted as a chief officer under Captain Lehman. It's practically standing still now. They've dropped ropes out of the nose of the ship, and it's been taken a hold of down on the field by a number of men. It's starting to rain again. The rain had slacked up a little bit. The back motors of the ship are just holding it just enough to keep it from... It bursts into flames. Get out of the way. Get it started. It's crashing. It's crashing terrible. Oh, my. Get out of the way, please. It's bursting into flames, and it's falling on the mooring mast and all the folks between it. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's like 400 or 500 feet into the sky, and it's a terrific crash, ladies and gentlemen. The smoke and the flames now, and the frame is crashing to the ground, not quite to the mooring mast. All the humanity and all the passengers screaming around it. I told you, I said I'd talk to people, and fish are out there. I can't talk, ladies and gentlemen. Honest, it's laying there, massive smoking wreckage. And everybody can't hardly breathe and talk and screaming. Lady, I'm sorry. Honestly, I can hardly breathe. I'm going to step inside where I cannot see it. Charlie, that's terrible. Listen, folks, I'm going to have to stop for a minute because I've lost my voice. This is the worst thing I've ever witnessed. I'm back again. I've sort of recovered from the terrific explosions and the terrific crash that occurred just as it was being pulled down to the mooring mast. They're still smoking and flaming and crackling and banging down there. And I don't know how many of the ground crew were under it when it fell. There's not a possible chance for anyone to be saved. The relatives of the people who are waiting here, ready to welcome their loved ones that came off this great ship, are broken up. They're carrying them in to give them first aid and to restore them. Some of them have fainted. And the people are rushing down to the burning ship. The fire trucks have all gone down to see if they can extinguish any of the blaze whatsoever. But the terrible amount of hydrogen gas in it just caused the tail surface broke into flame first. Then there was a terrific explosion, and that followed by the burning of the nose and the crashing nose into the ground, and everybody tearing back at breakneck speed to get out from underneath it, because it was over the people at the time it burst into flames. Now, whether it fell on the people who were witnessing it, we do not know. But as it exploded, they raced back, and now it's smoking, a terrific black smoke floating up into the sky. The flames are still leaping maybe 30, 40 feet from the ground, the entire 811 feet length of it. They're frantically calling for ambulances and things. The wires are being humming with activity. And I've lost my breath several times during this exciting moment here. Would you pardon me just a moment? I'm not going to stop talking. I'm just going to swallow several times until I can keep on. I should imagine that the nose is not more than 500 feet or maybe 700 feet from the mooring mast. They have dropped 2 ropes, and whether or not some spark or something set it on fire, we don't know, or whether something pulled loose on the inside of the ship, causing a spark and causing it to explode in the tail surface. But everything crashed to the ground, and there's not a possible chance of anybody being saved. I wish I could stop in just a moment and see if I can get my breath again. And Charlie, if you'll fade it out just a minute, I'll come back with more description, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm back again. I raced down to the burning ship, and just as I walked up to the ship, climbed over the picket line, I met a man coming out, dazed. He couldn't find his way. I grabbed a hold of him. It's Philip Mangone, A-N-G-O-N-E, of New York. Philip Mangone. He's burned terribly in the hands, and he's burned terribly in the face. His eyebrows and all his hair is burned off, but he's walking and talking plainly and distinctly, and he told me he jumped. He jumped with other passengers. Now, there's a Mr. Spay. It sounds like Spay. We're not sure of it. And he also got out, and we noticed the lines, the different lines, the airship lines and the American Airways. Their ambulances are down there, and they're taking people out of the wreckage. It seems that a number of them jumped clear when the explosion occurred in the tail. Now, I've just been running up with Mr. Mangone and put him in a car. His wife and daughter met him, and I put them in the car with him and sent him to the field hospital with the other passengers who have been saved. Now, the mass of wreckage is still burning, and I want to repeat again something that I may not have gotten cleared in the hysteria of the moment. The explosion occurred in the tail surfaces. In the fins, the part that was highest, after it had nosed in to go down to the mooring mast. Now, whether something slipped in the back and caused the spark to set off the gas, we do not know. You see, they're using hydrogen in this, or they were using hydrogen in this plane, and it is extremely explosive. In fact, they wear velvet and felt shoes when working among the rafters around the hydrogen gas bag. Now, something may have slipped, causing the spark to set off some hydrogen which had leaked out into the structure. It's still burning. I don't know what is burning. Evidently part of the cargo. It's still flaming 10 or 15 feet high. They're still rushing people out of it. Now, it is my sincere hope that as many as possible, and as many as I think are out, I think a majority of the passengers jumped when it came close to the ground, according to what Mr. Mangone told me. He says, thank God he jumped, and we say thank God for him also. And it's still smoking. The wreckage is smoking. They've wired all available services, fire apparatus, and everything to come rushing in, and doctors and nurses to come down to take care of the people that are being taken out of the burning wreckage. Now, it lays 811 feet of just smoldering ruins now. I couldn't talk when I saw it. I hope that it isn't as bad as I made it sound there at the very beginning. Now, while I get my breath, I'm going to check and see if there are any more saved out of it. All right, Charlie. Fade it out, and I'll come in just a bit. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, we're back with another important bulletin. Mr. O'Loughlin from the Consumers Company of Chicago was one of the passengers aboard the airship when it burst into flames, and he managed to get free of the wreckage, and he's standing here right by my side. I can't ask him to go on the air, but he wants me to tell the folks that he is all right. Mr. O'Loughlin of the Consumers Company in Chicago. And here's another man coming in. He's burned considerably. Mr. Otto Clemens. Mr. Otto Clemens is safe, although he's burned quite badly. Now, the Clemens isn't burned at all. Thank you. He's sitting right here. That's composed. And is that his mother with him?
No, that's
a friend of his? Oh, Mr. Clemens, how did you manage to get out alive?
Wir hast du rausgekommen.
Yes.
Ich bin, was ist das Radio?
Ja.
Ich bin von der Passagierkammer, also oben vom Speiseraum, zu meinem Koffer gegangen. In dem Moment kommt nun eine Flamme und das Schiff fängt an zu schwanken, sinkt nach unten und ich springe dann an der Luke heraus, die unten neben der Bar ist. Unten am unteren Gang, wo jetzt die neuen Kabinen eingebaut sind. Nicht?
He was on his way to his cabin when the
You tell the folks.
he was on his way to the cabin.
Yes.
When the flash came.
Yes.
And he jumped out.
He jumped out of the cabin.
Jumped out.
Yeah. And he didn't get hurt a bit in the same
No,
way?
he didn't hurt a bit.
And
Not hurt at all.
Oh, I'm so thankful for you. And you tell him in your language that we're thankful that he got out alive. And now, Charlie, if you'll fade it out just a minute, so I see if I can get some more information. And now, friends, I want to tell you, I'm back here. I want to tell you that the wreckage is still flaming out there, but I have some very good news for you. I just came from the front of the building where they have set up an emergency station, and they claim that between 25 and 30, that is the estimate, between 25 and 30 are saved out of the wreckage. Now, I have here a total of 39 passengers and 61 crew. That would make an even 100, but they tell me there were about 106 on board, so that makes 35 out of, between 25 and 30 out of 106 so far saved and accounted for that they have been identified. It's still smoking. They can't get to the back part of the wreckage yet. It would be impossible because the flames are, about 10 or 15 feet still leaping in the air. The front part of the ship is intact for about 30 feet back. The nose of it is intact. It evidently had exploded and burned before that part of the ship struck the ground, or even though it was the first part of the ship that should have struck the ground. It didn't. The burning mass held the back of the wreckage into the air, and that, I think, is what saved the passengers, for the simple reason that it gave them a time to jump. If the explosion had occurred in the front of the airship, they wouldn't have had time to jump because it would have blown the cabin right out of the bottom of the dirigible. But inasmuch as the flaming mass held the wreckage in the air, that made it possible for them to jump, and we are so thankful because from where we could see, we thought at first every one of them and the ground crew were gone. But I guess the ground crew had a chance to get out, and it was back, just a little bit back of the picket line, so that none of the spectators got underneath the wreckage. We're so thankful for that, and in checking, not a single spectator, only the persons engaged in the lowering of the giant ship and the people who were on board. Now, we have not received any information as to whether the crew escaped, any of the crew escaped, because they were evidently up in the working part of the ship and wouldn't be down in the passenger compartment.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to an actual eyewitness description of the disaster to the airship Hindenburg at Lakehurst last night. This recording you heard was made by Herbert Morrison and Charles Nielsen of station WLS, the Prairie Farmer Station, Chicago, who happened to be in person on the airport at Lakehurst together with us recording equipment when the catastrophe occurred. Herbert Morrison in person has been here in the studios with us. This special presentation has come to you through the Blue Network of the National Broadcasting Company.